Hello, UTAS fans. Welcome to another episode of Under the Abbey Stand. The clocks have changed. Shayne Lavery looks injured for possibly quite a long period of time, and it was quite a chilly day in Notts. It was quite a winter time day, so I think we went early on the clock change memo. Maybe. I'm Matt Caspell. Joining me tonight to review a 2-0 defeat up at Notts County is my good friend Tom Walker. Tom Walker, how are you today?
Yeah, marvelous, thanks. You know what? I think it was an absolutely classic case of a great day being ruined by the football in the middle of it. A genuinely very enjoyable day out. Either side of the football match, which was pretty bad, I'd say. But yeah, we go again. It feels like deja vu. I think we've covered a lot of it all before, I guess. And increasingly, I have a feeling that might be the way for the next couple of away games as well. But we rock and roll.
Well, let's try and stave off talking about the football as long as we possibly can. And let's instead start with my highlight of the day yesterday, which is that your good friend of mine, a member of this pod, Jack Swindlehurst, did a Britney Spears during the away day. Have you ever seen this before? Do you want to explain to people what I mean when I say this? Because that could mean a number of things.
Yeah. Some of them would be quite an interesting image, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw Jack Swindlehurst in two establishments yesterday. In the first one, he had quite a lot of hair. In the second one, he had not very much hair. We lost him for about an hour. We were like, where can he possibly have gone? And then the rumours started filtering through that he'd had a bit of a buzz cut, which did happen. It probably quite an interesting pre-match routine, I think. But yeah, brighten the day up a little bit. Very enjoyable. And I feel it looks better for it. Not going to lie.
I think that's the consensus. We might have to obviously put it out to our UTAS listeners. So next time you see our good friend Swindle, let us know what you think. Send us a tweet or Substack at Abbey Sound Pod, and we'll collate that feedback and get it back to him. Of course. Now feels like a good time, Tom, to introduce for the last time our hospitality competition that we have running exclusively for Coconut Tier members. All you have to do is be a member of the Coconut Tier for a mere £5 a month by the end of this month, and you'll be entered into a draw to win 2 hospitality tickets for Grimsby at home on the 4th of January, Sunday, the 4th of January. A really highly appealing football fixture. You probably need the hospitality to make that good. We will be doing the draw live. It'll be live for us and not so live for you on the preview pod on Thursday. So, is that right? No, I've messed my dates up. We'll be plugging it one more time on the preview pod on Thursday, and then at some point later we'll be doing the draw. The draw will obviously be at random. One subscriber will win 2 tickets to hospitality. Thank you to Cladara for that. I suppose we better talk about the football walks. That's what people are here for, right? BST is over. That's not good. Another away day. I described it after the game to Jules as a sort of weird hybrid of Tranmere away and Shrewsbury away. Tranmere away because we were in the game for a very long period. Shrewsbury away because the last 30 minutes, as soon as Notts scored, or as soon as, to be honest, we made a bit of a shape change and then Notts went on to score, it felt like all 4 wheels fell off and we didn't really have any hope of getting back into that football match. What's your take on it all?
Yeah, really getting the best of both worlds there.
Yeah.
Exactly what we were after. So fair enough. I think it was a game which for us probably went about as badly as it possibly could have done, to be honest. I think we saw the very worst of us, really. For long periods of the game, to be honest, I thought we were pretty poor all day. Probably the bigger disappointment is Lavery's injury, I think. I think he said at half time, like, this is a game where you could scrap a 1-0 win and still come out of it feeling a little bit disappointed that probably our main hope of achieving anything this season has kind of hobbled off again. But yeah, I think in terms of approach, execution, performance levels, we were just poor. I think all afternoon, and Notts County away is I guess to add a bit of balance. Notts County away, I guess presumably must be one of the hardest places to go in the league. I think they're a decent team, got some decent players. Obviously, Jatta was really effective. Jody Jones, obviously a player who, if not for injuries, would be playing at a higher level than this, which is pretty simple. But even like taking all that into account, like I just feel that we should be offering a lot more against a team like that, to be honest. And we'll come on and dissect the post match interview, which is obviously increasingly becoming quite a big part of the show, unfortunately, each week it seems. But I guess it depends on what you want to take from the game, right? If Neil Harris describes the sort of first hour or so has been outstanding, I would question what we're trying to get from the game, to be honest. I thought we showed virtually no quality at all. Our ball retention was awful, as bad as I've seen it for a long time. The amount of misplaced passes and turnovers there must have been were ridiculous, and we showed little or no ambition of doing anything in an attacking sense. And it's a game which I think beforehand, you're like, all right, it's Notts County away, it's tough, but maybe it's one of those games that does play into our hands a little bit, and it couldn't really have been further from that, I think. Yeah, really, really just disappointed, to be honest. I think a few individual performances like nowhere near the right level, but I just thought as a collective, as a team, and to be honest, really, it's one of the first times this season where I've been in the ground or sort of come out of the ground towards the end and thought, do you know what, like this is seriously on the manager. I felt there's obviously other examples where he's made changes that have won us games or contributed to us winning games. I look at like Colchester away. I think even Bromley the other week, I think his in-game management was quite good. But I thought in terms of approach and an attempt to try and change things, having gone behind, I think it's about as bad as we've had under Neil Harris, to be honest. I was very, very disappointed, even taking into account that Notts County are one of the best resource teams in the league and arguably it's a tough test. But yeah, well off it for me. And we said after Shrewsbury, like, you can kind of accept that there's going to be afternoons where you chuck in a stinker. Like it happens, like it's football. Like League Two is obviously unpredictable in that sense, but away from home, particularly, this is becoming too regular. And for a team that has players in the squad on the bench in some cases who are earning very, very decent money for this level, presumably, it's just not good enough. It's as simple as that, really. Yeah, really frustrated.
Yeah, I mean, everything you said there is fair. I think I've looked at a lot of the reaction message board and talking to other people, and obviously what you've just said there. And to be honest, I mean, I agree with 95% of what you said. I felt like that first hour, considering Notts' home form is now joint best in the league with ourselves after 7 games at home for them. I thought it was okay. I know it was pretty dour, like on entertainment.
It was a terrible watch.
I mean,
it was
but
awful
it's like,
to watch.
But we have come on the pod, and obviously we're not, just to remind everyone, because we get this a lot, we're not one mind. We are 5 different individuals, if that makes sense, with our own opinions. We've come on and said before, like there's a style and substance issue, right? Like I just feel like, and I'm not trying to sell you this bullshit because I don't fully believe it, but it's like there is a world where you approach a game like that first hour, Lavery isn't injured, which I know is like looking a bit detached from reality now because it's happened again. And you do go and nab that goal just by being really solid, build a bit of momentum, and then you get a set piece and you grab it, and it's proper smash and grab stuff. I'm not saying that's what we deserve, because I sort of agree with what you were saying there, though. To limit Notts County as much as we did, we literally had to sacrifice everything that we would have. Any kind of attacking intent kind of disappeared completely. And I do just feel like, in a way, the pressure of that just became too much. I think my frustration from yesterday is that I don't think Notts County play very well. I don't think they had to play very well. I just really felt like they didn't have a good afternoon, even though they are a good side on paper and by form at home. And it was just a waiting game, it felt like. It just felt almost inevitable. I actually turned to a good friend of the pod, Tim Berry, and just said, this is fine, right? Unless they score, until they score, and it will be, and we will have no reflex. There won't be a way back into the game for us if they score. Obviously, they won't score because it just started to feel quite inevitable. You referenced some of it there, Walks. We had 34% possession, only 0.48 XG. We restricted Notts to 0.3 XG of their own game wide. We had speculated on the preview pod that these might be the stats that you would expect to see after a game that we've actually done quite well in. So, like, before we went to Grimsby, we were like, look, it's a tough place. They've just beaten Man United a few weeks earlier. Is it going to play into our hands to not have the ball and to be more defensively set up and be able to hit them on the counter? I guess, is it a concern that even with that style of performance that's supposed to work for us, it just really didn't work for us at all?
Yeah, it's definitely a concern, and it's a concern more than anything because like this is the game plan, particularly away from home. And I just think even just like the concept of this potentially being a game that should play into our hands a little bit, I think that's a real reflection on where we're at, because like to have on paper the sort of players that we've got in our squad available and think a game where you can have like 30% of the ball is the sort of game that you want, I think is ridiculous. Really, like we've got a squad of players there that should be able to take it to teams and really should see any game in this division as being quite winnable, I think. But here we are. I mean, to me, the goal felt so inevitable. The first goal, obviously, then the second one. To be honest, I think Notts County probably could have had the deck chairs out. To be fair, after the first goal, because it just felt like as soon as the wall crumbles, there's no chance of putting it back up, sort of thing. And yeah, I mean, the difficulty is, and I totally understand the logic, and I think at times, like particularly probably more so in League One, like I could understand it a lot, that you focus on Notts nil, like that's the most important thing, and then you come away from it and you go, all right, even if we are pretty ineffective going forward, at least you take something from the game. But you have to be basically perfect, right, for 90 minutes, and that's the difficulty, is that we've got players who we've seen, because throughout all of last season where they were abysmal for the most part, just probably don't have it in them to be consistently very good and very, very, very strong defensively. Like I think we just don't keep enough clean sheets, to think that even at home where obviously our record's very good. Like how many clean sheets we kept? What, 2 maybe? I think on the first day against Newport. I think that's it. Maybe there's another one in there. I can't remember. But like, that's a real problem, and definitely something that needs sorting. Or I guess the alternative is you rethink the approach a little bit to away games, which I think is something that I would probably be more in favour of. But yeah, I suppose there's maybe an element where like the best plan B is just to do plan A a little bit better.
I just think you're right. I just think you can't allow as much pressure to build as we allowed to build against Notts. It was just a wave, wasn't it? It was like you just simply have to retain the ball better, higher up the pitch. You need to occupy their half at least, or definitely the final third, for a prolonged period of time, because not having the ball is tiring, right? Players are chasing their shadows, they're having to move around a lot. I don't think we have a lot of mobility in that, particularly centre midfield department. It's like, I'm not sure that's the personnel you need to be like chasing shadows and running around. Like that's a high energy requirement, and I just don't think we have it. And I just think the weight of that over the course of the 70 minutes before they scored just kind of told, and then we just sort of gassed out as much as anything. So I'm kind of with you. Like, we need a new game plan for these away games, particularly. The thing is, you go to Notts, I sort of understand it because they're one of the best home teams. So I actually don't mind that setup. Obviously, our good mate Jules would tell you the train home, I just kept banging on about that Tranmere game because I was just obsessed with the idea that that's the missed opportunity. Losing to Notts is fine if you've gone and beaten Tranmere and taken that opportunity, because like Tranmere was just such a presentable opportunity to get points that we haven't delivered against. That you can make your peace with losing someone like Notts and losing to the top, the playoff teams away at tough games. Going there and trying to be really solid and trying to grind out a point is fine, because you've gone and beaten the bottom 10 teams.
You earn the right. You earn the right, don't you?
Well, yeah, that's it. Like, like the home form is great, but I think everyone now, especially without Lavery and looking a bit thin, and obviously a few other lads yesterday looked a bit knackered. Harris talked about being down to 9 men effectively in this post match, which we'll come on to in a bit. You just feel like I just feel like we feel a bit precarious right now. It's probably best that we've got this cup game coming up, and then Salford away. I know obviously we'll preview it. That is a tough assignment now. That is like a tricky game. And it just feels precarious with the injuries, but also the fact that we haven't had the same result 2 games in a row in the league yet, and the next one is Salford away for us. So I think I would agree, like a change of approach definitely is needed. We'll dip into the post-match now. I don't want to cover it fully yet, Walks. We'll get there later, but it feels relevant at this point to talk, I guess, about the setup and creativity, because Harris referenced in his post-match that we weren't creative enough or brave enough. I guess we have to talk about Harris, right? Like, if we're not creative or brave enough, where does that come from? Like, is it, the way he's inferred it in that presser is he's kind of put it on the players. But I am wondering if a team that starts with sort of Gibbons, Perrington, and Panzu Ball, is that creative enough? Do we have the right personnel? Are they in the right shape for us to be creative, or does Harris need to maybe look in the mirror? To be honest,
Yeah, I think there's definitely more than a bit of that. To be honest, like particularly away, but I think even also at home, like we just never really have created a lot. I can only think of like probably the game against Harrogate, maybe Bromley as well, perhaps. As being games where like we created like 3, 4, 5 like really clear cut chances. And I think if you're a team that was where we're at last season, which is a team that's expecting to scrap around the sort of bottom 6 to 8 place in the league, that's not as much of a problem. But if the onus is on you really to win games because you want to finish in the top 3 and get promoted, you do kind of need to be more creative. Like, these things quite often revert to the mean, don't they? And like, you might have afternoons where like Lavery's really clinical, and then you only need to create 1 or maybe 2 chances at best. But it's not going to happen every week, unless someone like Lavery or like a CUFC ends up having like a Mullin-esque season where they're scoring every week. But we don't have that because one of them's injured and the other one's probably not quite there yet. So yeah, I mean, I agree with the thing about the accountability as well, because like I'm probably coming off as probably a little bit closer to the Harris out mark than I am, because I'm not. Like, I'm broadly think that he's the best manager for the job still, and I just think you have to give him the time. And obviously the league's still quite tight and stuff, and obviously it's a bit of a different conversation. But we picked up on this a few weeks ago that if results aren't very good, these post-match interviews, they're going to wear very thin very quickly. And part of it is in terms of what he's saying, but it's also part of it where like, it's all right, if a manager said, look, I didn't think I get everything right today, and just takes a little bit more responsibility of it. And I think because of the amount of times that it happens, in terms of us like not basically just not able to create chances consistently or create enough chances, you have to say it's a systemic thing. It can't just be the case that the players are consistently turning up and not doing the job that he wants them to do, because otherwise you'd just drop them, wouldn't you? And that's not happening too much either. So, yeah, probably a bit of personnel in there as well. I think you guys on the preview show discussed it, that we've got 4 centre mids who seem to do the same sort of job, which is not like, which is about as far away from being like a Wes Hoolahan sort of creator sort of thing as it possibly is. It feels like probably all 4 of our midfielders would be one, and then you pair them up with somebody different, someone a bit more creative, someone maybe even a bit more box to box. So that's potentially a personnel thing, but that's a case of not having that sort of player available, really. The fullbacks thing is frustrating, to be honest, because Gibbons was really poor against Bromley, was really poor again against Notts County, and I just think there's a better option sat on the bench, frankly. So I don't really understand that. And that's more a case of personnel than the system, I guess. But yeah, it's like it just quite simply just has to improve. I don't really think there's any other way of kind of speaking about it. Just got to get better and quite quickly, really. Because I mean, like, you go back to like even like the most basic thing, right? Like, I think I've seen a lot of reaction to this result, which is quite strong, really, and quite strong performance. I know a couple of people that I was with after the game, briefly yesterday, were like very, very strongly towards the idea that we should change the manager. And I'm not there, and I think it does need more time. But I can understand why people are quick to react, right? Because we've just sat through 3 seasons of basically getting beaten every week, and you come down to a division where you're assured you've got the right guy in for the job, and you're assured you've got a decent squad of players there available, and nothing's really changed in terms of the way that we approach games or the way that we can or can't create chances. Like for most of last season, it was like we're going to do nothing unless Josh Stokes steps up and does something brilliant. And this season, it's like, well, hopefully we can get the ball to Lavery once or twice, and he'll be able to get on the end of something. And that's kind of what it's been, really. And if you've just been through a season where we, like last season, where we're in the bottom four pretty much from day one until the end of the season, I think you are kind of within your right to demand a little bit more now, particularly with like some of the away followings we're taking. I mean, we've not talked about that yet, but like what, north of 1,300 fans going to Notts County when our away record is what it is. It's pretty incredible, really. And I don't think there's ever been a time where, at least in the stand, that support has ever like waned, or it's ever turned, or it's ever been particularly toxic. And I know I'm getting a little bit away from the question here, but I guess what I'm saying is that we are being shortchanged at the moment. And at least home attendances are sort of sticking around a similar sort of mark. Obviously, minus the full away end every week. They're obviously pretty much guaranteed in League One, but in terms of home support, it's basically been the same. That ain't gonna last forever either. So that's something that's got to be thought of as well. But and I suppose just on that as well. So I'm rabbiting on a little bit, but like
Go for it, mate.
it's a spectacle thing as well, isn't it? Like you do want to be entertained. I think
Yeah.
part of the kind of deal that you have, obviously not the right word, but when you do get relegated, like part of that and part of the discussion around that is like, well, at least we'll win a few games next season. It should be a little bit better to watch. Blah 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 blah. And that's not true either. Obviously, we're winning the odd game here and there, but like Bromley was a bit of a scrape, and one or two other examples as well. But just think this is something that really needs to click. And the good thing is, I think there's enough quality in there that if we can find a way of changing things and be more creative, I think the dial will move quite a lot. Like it feels like we're playing nowhere near what we could be playing, which is obviously very frustrating. But it does give you encouragement that they can get better at least. So it's probably not terminal, but could really do with some treatment soon, I think.
No, I get where you're coming from, and I mean, there's loads to unpack there, but we spoke about it on the preview pod. Jules was saying just obviously like how well, maybe it's the mailbag, how binary state people have become just in life in general. Like it doesn't need to be Harris out at this point. Like it shouldn't be that quick to turn around. We're 2 points off the playoffs still. And it's kind of that point. It's like we're not clicking, we're not playing nearly as well as we think we could with the personnel that we have, and we're still in touch. Like I know it's not the most entertaining, but still there is an alternate universe where you go to Notts County, you stifle them for an hour, and you grab a goal and you wheel away. And I'm not trying to happy clap it out because I do think it was pretty bad, and the way it turned was pretty disappointing. I think the thing you said there, Walker, is right. We're all on for like the whole pod is on a bit of an arc where we said originally, like, we don't care how entertaining the football is. We just want to get the results. And I feel like we're starting to slightly evolve that viewpoint because this style of football, the thing I was saying after the game is like, I can understand now why Gillingham got rid of Harris when they were, 7th or 8th in the league or something like that, because if this is the product, if this is the entertainment value, then we're just so short on it. Like, we've been doing these away days a long time. The whole excitement of that away day being in with like 1,300 United fans is that we might go and score, and you get to actually celebrate a goal with the really big away following. And it just, there wasn't that excitement. You know what I mean? There just wasn't that like, oh, we're going to have a chance, you win the odd set piece that is not productive. And it just leaves you feeling a bit flat, really. And to be honest, looking at the away fixtures, it's going to be a little while now until we have a big following, unless FA Cup kind of throws something out for our second round, if that makes sense, because we've got a lot of mileage to put up in the next few weeks. So when those bigger occasions come around, it is a bit of a disappointment if you just don't really lay a glove on them in an attacking sense. So whilst I'm with you, I think in terms of my viewpoint, I want to see improvement and change. I think personally, I'm obviously a mile away from Harris out. Still think definitely we need another recruitment window at least, and he needs probably the whole season. You know, we're not going to get relegated, so it's like he obviously gets to stay for the entirety of the season, in my opinion, and see what we can do with another transfer window and see if we can solve some of these problems. Let's talk about Lavery. Whilst we're in the pit of despair, let's go with it, Tom. It's a fairly obvious question. I guess there's two lines to this question. One is how big a loss is Shayne Lavery? I think it's fairly easy to answer that one anyway. Hamstring issue, we're told again, so we could be looking, the standard 8 to 10 week layoff that seems to come with those. And then I guess a second line to that question: were you surprised at that stage that we persisted with 2 up top, and it was Elias Kachunga was the sub? Unpack that for us.
Yeah, well, let's start with the sub first. I think we basically went down to 10 men when Lavery went off, unfortunately. So I'm not sure I would agree with the idea that we persisted with 2 up top. There was one, and then there should have been somebody else there, but they were pretty meaningless. Really made virtually no impact on the game at all. But obviously, it's about Lavery. Yeah, really gutted. I was a bit gutted for him more than anything, really, because you could tell what had happened and what injury it was by the amount of our players that were like around him when he was down. Like, he probably knew straight away. They probably knew straight away. And for I guess the impact that it has on us is just massive, really. I think it was post Fleetwood. We said obviously that was his sort of comeback game when he obviously gets the winner there. But I think we all sort of unanimously went, our season probably hinges quite a lot on how long can you keep Shayne Lavery fit. If he plays 70% of the games, good chance he scores north of 20 goals. But is he going to play? Is he basically going to play enough minutes like for that to happen? So yeah, it's a bit of a stinker, really. But unfortunately, this was the thing that you could see coming, wasn't it? I mean, you knew, like, as soon as you go into a season, like, and the hopes are basically hinging on, oh well, if Lavery stays fit, we might have a bit of a chance. You know something's going to go wrong at that point. And the other thing that I was thinking about as well was, I remember in the summer, because obviously there was a lot of chat in the summer around, like, do we need another striker and stuff? And I think Harris was asked quite openly about, like, how can they get the best from Lavery? And there was a lot of discussion around the fact that they're going to be really careful in managing his minutes quite often. I was just looking, like, before, I think with the exception of Tranmere, I think he started pretty much every game and played the vast majority of games. Like 90 minutes Shrewsbury, 90 minutes against Bromley. Obviously he's been left out of the Virtue games, but even then, like, you look back to, like, starting at Fulham and stuff, and you're like, is there really any need? Like, so I don't know. I mean, I guess it's one of those things where he's got the quality where if he's fit and available, then you start him, and that's kind of end of conversation. But yeah, I mean, leaves us in a real hole. This I'm not being funny if our option is to basically basically put Kachunga in his place, we have to be looking at the free agent market. We have to be, because let's assume that this is a similar sort of hamstring injury to before. We're talking 6 to 8 weeks, really. That takes us to January basically now, doesn't it? And there's a lot of football to be played between now and then, and we need options really up there, and that's something we don't have. And you just hate the idea that we're going to get into a situation where we're having to, like, rush Apare back. Maybe he gets a little niggle again, something like that, and it just kind of derails you, really. But yeah, unfortunately,
you're forgetting about Lofty entirely here. You say I'm not going to recall Lofty.
No, fuck that, mate. I've been for enough.
I wish. This is the only problem with this being a podcast, is that people don't get to see your facial expression when I ask that question.
Yeah. Honestly, I'd probably look to you the same way that you would look at someone if they broke into your house and did a big shit in the kettle. I was like, really? That's what you're doing? You sure?
It's low. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mate, I know what you mean, but it feels like certainly the PFA team has just been raided in the last 2 weeks. Was it Fabio Barini got himself a club? Britta Sommalonga obviously made his way to Barnet. We saw him the other week in the Virtue. We'll see him again at the Abbey in a couple of weeks. Like, is it Connor Wickham? Is that all that's left? I think it's not inspiring.
Yeah, there must be somebody out there. Colin Wickham feels like he's been a free agent for about 4 years. I feel
Forever, yeah. Every transfer window,
but
yeah.
then again, like you talk about like injury records and stuff, and like I think Colin Wickham's like career is famous. He's been blighted by injuries. Feels like it's an impossible thing to get away from. This is just an issue of squad planning, isn't it? Really.
Everyone has said it. It's not a viewpoint that's exclusive to us, right? There was real concern around this, like inability that we had, or I know they tried hard, but to get a striker in, and it just simply has to happen at this point. I mean, Apre is obviously currently injured and still working his way back. CUFC has a history of hamstring problems as well. Lavery was so clearly, this was so clearly going to happen. If you know what I mean, like no one. It's not like this is a special opinion. It's like Lavery might get injured and only be available for 15 games this season. Like,
No, it was like a total
right.
guarantee. So it's a total guarantee. He will get injured at some point. You know for a fact he will. Like you have to plan for the season with Lavery as a bonus, really. And I know it's not easy to do because of wages and all the rest of it. And obviously he's obviously a good quality player and will want to feel like he's part of the squad. But the fact of facts, like this guy won't complete a full season, and I think that's where I feel probably most sorry for him more than anything. And obviously it's a real downer on what our ambitions could probably be over the next few weeks or next couple of months. But like for him personally, he must have felt like, right, I'm really getting back into a bit of a groove here. I'm getting back into a place where, he's getting on the end of things. Obviously, scores against Bromley, looks really good against Bromley as well. Then hamstring ping straight away, but it makes you wonder. I think he's 26 at the moment. Makes you wonder what sort of longevity he might have in a career in full time football. To be honest, but I guess that's hopefully a conversation for another day. But unfortunately, if you pin your promotion hopes on a man whose hamstrings are made of tofu, this is likely to happen.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I agree with you as well. It's just a shame for him on like a personal level. Let's talk about the goals. So I'm not going to talk about much match action because there's not a huge amount to talk about in that regard. Both looked pretty defendable, I guess we would say. Both looked like they could have been prevented, particularly the second one. It is a good finish, the second one. I guess take me through it.
Yeah, Jatta just getting the better of us really on a couple of occasions. He's obviously a really good player for this level. I know he was linked with moves away. I think in the summer, obviously they'll be really quite glad to have held on to him. But yeah, I mean the first one is just it's just a bit too easy for me. Obviously Cross comes in and it's just a poorly defending the back post. I think probably I'm kind of on the fence whether I feel like it should have been cleared off the line. It feels like it.
Yeah, I
Could
wondered
have
about.
been.
I feel like it should not. I know there's other parts to it, but I just felt like it's what's on the line, isn't it? It just felt like he's duffed it a bit. Like he had a
Yeah,
chance to keep that out, and it's just not executed. Maybe he's thinking about engineering a thigh pass at the time.
yeah. Um, the second one, to be fair, I think is a really good finish, but it does come from Watts really cocking up, really just him and Morrison very disorganized. I know it's a right at the end of the game, so and also because of the changes that we made, everyone's a little bit all over the place anyway, so I can kind of forgive the lack of organisation there. But yeah, I mean, like Watts just has to be better with the second one, albeit Jat has taken it so well and he's done what all good strikers should do, and he takes a chance really early as well. And yeah, I mean, what can you say? I mean, look, they're not quite Shrewsbury level bad because we conceded 2 goals there. It was a bit of a horror show, really. And even the one against Bromley that we conceded was pretty bad as well. But yeah, probably not quite that level, but not a million miles off.
I mean, just before these goals, Tom, we'll get back onto Harris now. In his post-match, said we were outstanding and excellent for those first 60 minutes. Obviously, firstly, do you agree with that viewpoint? I know you've covered it in the main anyway. Right before we conceded the goals, Knott's made, I think, that trio of changes. And to respond to that, Harris seemed to drop to 5 at the back. Mayer went in at left back. Parrington slid into centre back. And it just felt like that moment we lost this thin amount of momentum that we'd built in the start of the second half, which was like our best moment of the game. It was like first 10 minutes after half time. How much responsibility do we think Harris has to take for pulling us a little bit out of shape? And then immediately we concede, a game clinching goal.
Yeah, quite a lot, I think. I think you guys spoke about it. I think it was after the Oldham game, maybe. Um, and look, I'll start this with the caveat that I think there's been a few occasions where Harris's in-game management has been superb this season. I look at like Colchester, which managed that game perfectly. I think I mentioned Bromley earlier. Like Bromley made a few changes, which had a bit of an impact. He was then able to sort of win it back round by making a few subs, changing shape a little bit. So um, I'm not going to sit here and say that like he's consistently losing those games through poor decision making, because that's just not the case. But increasingly, what I think we're kind of seeing a lot, and I know Notts made a triple sub of their own, but it feels like if we're chasing a goal, we do shit the bed a little bit, and we'll make like three or maybe four subs, which are like which totally changes the shape of the team, and you can tell it's a shape that they're not working on much because they all look quite uncomfortable with it, and it takes like 5 or 10 minutes for them to even get to grips with where they're all supposed to be playing, and by that point the game's kind of done. And yeah, I think you're right. I mean, to be honest, with Lavery off the pitch, I think the first goal, like after that, I was like, feels like we're a long way from getting back into this. And then after the subs, it just felt like it had totally killed any opportunity that we had to get something from the game. Um, and Notts obviously saw it out reasonably comfortably without any real pressure on their goal. And then obviously they get the second one, which to be honest was probably quite well deserved. I mean, we're using words like outstanding in the post-match interview. I thought Notts were the better team on the day. I thought we were consistently second best in all parts of the pitch. So yeah, I think I definitely agree with you that I think the changes kind of pissed on any potential flames of sort of a comeback. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's happened before. I'm sure it'll happen again, where changes that the manager makes just haven't had any impact, unfortunately. Um, and if anything, probably quite a negative one, I guess.
Well, how cheery is that on a day where, sadly the sun is setting at like 5 p.m. Tom, is there any, to round us off, is there any cause for optimism? Or is that it? Now the clocks have changed. No Lavery. What have we got to cling on to here?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there is, and from listening to the last 40 minutes or so, you might think that I think otherwise, but no, I do. I think in League Two, because the league is so tight, like we're 13th now, but we're 5 points off the top. Like even that's not insurmountable, you know. Like there's a chance that you come out of the Salford game and you're sat in the top seven. So it's certainly not like terminal, but like by any stretch. So I guess that's one reason for optimism, is that there's still a long way to go, and it's all very tight and still very much all to play for. Um, but I think the thing that I've got in the back of my mind, which is really really frustrating during games, but afterwards you can kind of take it as a bit of a positive when you look into the upcoming fixtures, is that I do think there's a lot more to come. I think there's like a lot of improvement that can be done here. Like if you look at last season, for example, you kind of felt like we were up against it, and you kind of felt like even if we were like bottom of the league or 23rd for most of the season, it's probably about as good as we're ever going to get. Whereas with the current squad we've got available to us compared to the rest of the league, I do think there's a long way that it can still improve in terms of the quality we've got available to us. Obviously, slightly concerned about the striker situation. Um, I think we have to address that in the free agent market, but not necessarily holding my breath there. So that's obviously an area of concern. But I do think, generally speaking, we've got a very decent set of players for this level. We've just got to find a way of getting a bit more out of them, to be honest. And that's the problem that Neil Harris is paid to solve. And I think in terms of his attributes as a manager, and in terms of like his qualities as a manager, I do think he's someone who should be a pretty like strong option for it, like for League Two. And I do back that he's going to be the guy who can kind of turn it around really, and just make us a bit more difficult to beat, like away from home, or a bit more of a proposition. Like if you look at like Bromley, for example, and you look at their team, and you look at like their budget and stuff. When we played Bromley, everyone knew like, right, you're gonna have a real game on your hands here. Like they're gonna make it really difficult for you, and they're gonna really take the game to you at points. Never really quite get that feeling with us. So I think there needs to be a bit of a change in approach, um, potentially a change in personnel, and I think that can move the needle quite a lot, and probably quite quickly as well. So obviously this has been quite a down in the dumps sort of episode, and quite a kind of depressing listen, I guess, maybe. But I would say that I think there's still reason to think that we can get something out of this season. One of the things I was thinking earlier as well was like, if you look at the sort of two promotions that we've had in sort of recent memory, so that one being from the conference and the other one being from League Two during the lockdown year, the difference with this season and those seasons is that like it just clicked straight away. Like I think the conference, I think we were 16, 17 games unbeaten at the start, absolutely flying. We were like 10, 11, 12 points clear at points of those around us. And in the League Two promotion year, we were like slapping teams 5-0 quite routinely, winning most games that we played. But like even within that season and even in the conference season, we went through like 2-3 month spells where we just weren't very good. Like you look at the way that we ended that conference season, I think we lost like 5 or 6 in a row without even
Five in a
scoring a
row,
goal.
no goal. Yeah.
Yeah. And like there was a period around Christmas time in the League Two promotion year where we were genuinely very poor. And you felt like at some moments like we were going to really chuck away a really good opportunity to get promoted. We're kind of going to have to do it the other way around this year. But I guess what I'm trying to get around to, and this probably doesn't sound like as much of a positive as I kind of mean it to be, but you don't have to be like amazing from start till finish to get promoted, I think is what I'm saying. So we're still finding our feet a little bit. Arguably, late October is too late to still be finding your feet, but there's still plenty of opportunity to put it right. And the league's tight enough, and I don't think there's enough quality in the league to say that we definitely can't finish in the top three, really, because that has to be the aim. I'm not confident based on what I've seen, but I think that can improve. So, yeah, keep going, guys. Stick with it. Trust the process, all that sort of stuff. You might get rewarded at the end.
There you go. That's Tom Walker polishing a turd for you on a Monday. I think my cause for optimism, Tom, comes from the fact that you can visit our good friends and sponsors over at the Old Spring and get yourself a Matchday Meal Deal before or after, before every CFC away game or home game. £15 for burger, fish and chips, or the world famous skepasti and a beer. 10% off any time for ticket holders with a CUFC season ticket or a match ticket for this week or next. Obviously, every Saturday, most critically, happy hour, 6 till 7 p.m. So after that cup game next week against Chester, make your way over, get yourself some half-price beers, and you can celebrate, or you could drink to forget. You know, you do either or. Tom Walker, thanks for joining us. I'm sure we'll catch you soon.
Yeah, been a pleasure.